Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over the cars that stood out to me the most in the 2023 sales year, or I guess YouTube video year, whatever you want to call it. I review a lot of cars. Between the reviews and the comparisons, I do almost 1,000 videos per year on this main channel. And so, yeah, I want to go over the cars that stood out to me the most through these reviews. As always, before we get into the video, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. I suppose before we officially get into this, these cars are not in any particular order, and some of these will be 2024 model year vehicles, but they were somewhat available or readily available in the 2023 sales year, so that's why they're on the list. The first one is the 2024 Ram 1500 Warlock. Ram finally put the Warlock package on the new body style truck, and it's basically a budget Ram Rebel. It's a more affordable off-roader from Ram, so I thought that was cool. I always like more affordable vehicles, especially when they have some off-road capability. The next one is the Chrysler 300C. Chrysler basically put the 6.4 Hemi in the 300C for the last year of the Chrysler 300. It was basically a luxury Dodge Charger. The coolest thing is, again, it was more affordable. It's like in the $50,000 range, whereas an equivalent SRT, or sorry, 392, right, Charger was like $10,000 more expensive. So it was just a really cool thing. The next one is the Ford Bronco Raptor. Now this, debuted in the 2022 model year, but every single time I review one, it's just an absolute blast. And I obviously bought one. It's the best off-road vehicle from the factory that you can buy. It's just insanely capable, such a cool car. And that brings us to another Raptor, the Ford Raptor R. I was actually not a big fan of the Raptor R initially, but then, when I reviewed it a couple more times, did some comparisons with it, I actually came out really liking the truck. It doesn't sound as good as the Ram TRX, but it is a really cool truck and drives really well. Now the next one is the ZR2 Bison with the Colorado, with the 1500 and 2500 with the Chevy trucks. Now I actually haven't had a chance to review that Colorado version yet, but I have reviewed the 1500 and the 2500. The trucks look amazing. They drive fantastic. And like, if I were to buy a truck in today's market, it would be a 1500 because I don't need a heavy duty truck. And it would be the 1500 ZR2 Bison with the Duramax. I think it's just such a cool truck. And then that also includes the GMC Sierra AEV editions. So the AT4X AEV edition with the 1500, 2500. And then I guess you could dive into the Canyon as well. Anyways, the next one is the XT4 from Cadillac. This car I thought just looked really cool, had a cool interior, not the most exciting powertrain, but it's Cadillac's more affordable crossover, and I think they did a pretty good job. Crosstrek Wilderness. I love the fact that Subaru is wildernessing the world. I think that's just such a cool concept. I think Crosstrek Wilderness looks really cool. It is kind of pricey. It almost makes more sense to just buy a Forester Wilderness with how much the Crosstrek costs, but still pretty cool. Kia EV9. I'm not a big electric vehicle fan, and notice that I think that's like the only electric vehicle that I put on this list, but I think Kia did a really good job with the EV9. It's got decent range. It looks fantastic, really nice interior. I think they just did a really good job for an electric three-row SUV. And then this leads us into the Hyundai Elantra N. So I reviewed the automatic, I think a couple times this year, and then I finally reviewed a manual recently, and I think the Elantra N is just an absolute bargain. It's mid $30,000 range for a super fast, super fun, hot hatch type car. I mean, Honda's charging $10,000 more for a similar experience, so I think they did a really good value play there. And then this leads us into the GV80 Prestige Signature. I think this is the coolest luxury SUV because first off, it's still relatively affordable. It's in that like $80,000 price range, but it just gives you so many features. It looks great on the outside. It looks great on the inside as well. And I don't really see a point in buying a more expensive luxury SUV unless you want a more premium powertrain because interior-wise, it's just beautiful. And then this leads us to the Lexus LX 600. This is the only like real Land Cruiser we get here in the US market because they don't sell the bigger Land Cruiser here anymore. And so, yeah, it's just, it's Lexus Land Cruiser. It looks pretty cool, the front end with the grills, a little bit off, but I think it drives amazingly well. It's kind of like a more affordable G-Wagon is a good way to put it. And then this leads us to the Toyota Prius. Super impressed with this car, and I always toy with buying one of these because I drive like 40,000 miles per year, and a car that gets 50 miles per gallon on average, super appealing, and the new Prius just looks great. And then now the next one is going to be the 4Runner TRD Pro. Now, this is a pretty ancient vehicle, but it still drives really well. It looks cool, especially the 2024 color with that kind of, the 23 color with the Solar Octane is really cool, but the 24 color with the brown, I think that also looks really cool. But yeah, super reliable. Like, this is one of the few vehicles that you can buy brand new that you can for sure get 300, 400,000 miles out of the vehicle, so pretty cool. The new Nissan Sentra, I thought this was a cool, affordable car from Nissan. It looks really nice, and it'll be something that'll be solid to compete against, you know, something like the Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla, all of that. The Nissan Titan, 24 is the last year for the Titan. And again, this is another vehicle that is pretty, you know, old, even though they did like a pretty heavy refresh in 2020. It's a vehicle you can buy that is guaranteed to last for several 100,000 miles. You can't say that about the other pickup trucks in today's world. Mini Cooper Countryman. This was an interesting one because I thought that I was going to be all about like the two-door Mini Cooper. I drove the Countryman, and that actually is my favorite Mini Cooper because you get all the fun Mini Cooper styling and driving dynamics, but then you have more ground clearance, so it's actually practical to use on a daily basis, and it's a little bit bigger. And then a vehicle that's very similar to the Countryman, the BMW X1. I think this vehicle drives amazingly well. I think it looks cool. It's a more affordable BMW, and I want to do the M35 version. I think I'm going to be doing a review on that pretty soon, but I thought that drove pretty well. Audi A6 Allroad. Station wagons, I think, are just underrated in general. Everyone thinks they need an SUV, but station wagons like this have SUV practicality with the space, but then they have better handling dynamics like a car. I think that Audi, with the, you know, recent increase in people wanting off-road vehicles, and I mean, look how well the 911 Dakar did and the Huracan Strato. Anyways, I think that Audi should do a more off-road oriented all-road, but with like the RS6 powertrain. That would sell amazingly well, in my opinion. 911 GT3, I finally got a review on. I thought it was really cool. They're extremely expensive. I don't know if they live up to the hype from a financial perspective, but it was a really fun car to review. G550 G-Wagon. I've talked about how I think this is the G-Wagon to get because it's more affordable compared to the G63, especially when you take into account dealer markups. A lot of dealers will actually sell G550s at MSRP, whereas they'll still mark up the 63s quite a bit over MSRP. And yeah, I mean, it gives you the G-Wagon experience at a lower price point, and it's better off-road because it has smaller brakes, so you can fit smaller wheels and everything on it. And I think it looks better than the 63, just my personal opinion. Then the next one is the GLE 63. So Mercedes did kind of like a heavier refresh with the GLE. They also did it with the GLS as well. But the GLE 63, I think, is just a really fun car. You got the twin turbo 4-liter V8, super fast. And if you don't want to have the big body on frame G-Wagon or the bigger GLS, you can get that same, you know, V8 AMG experience in an SUV. So I thought that was cool. Volvo V90, similar argument to the Audi A6. Station wagon, super practical. I think it just super comfortable, really fun to drive overall from like a, not like a super like sports car experience, but still I think it's pretty fun to drive. Jaguar F-Pace SVR. I think this is one of the most underrated cars on the market. You can get a supercharged 5-liter V8 Jaguar for under $100,000. Again, it depends on how dealers spec them out. Some of them are just over $100,000. But like, you just don't see luxury SUVs with 5-liter supercharged V8s anymore, especially at that price point. So I think it's a bargain, and I'm surprised more people aren't buying them. I understand, you know, the reliability with Jaguar, but still. And then Range Rover Sport. I think that Range Rover did a really good job on the new Sport. I'm not so keen on the styling. I think that the full size looks better with the new styling, but the Sport drives so well. The interior is really nice, and it's pretty reasonably priced for what it is. Integra Type S. Although I think this car is a little bit more expensive than it should be, it looks fantastic. It drives amazingly well, has a, you know, pretty cool interior. And yeah, I mean, it's an Acura Civic Type R, and that's the next one is Honda Civic Type R. Even though, again, I feel like this car is more expensive than it ought to be, it does drive amazingly well, and I think it does look really cool. And then Honda Pilot. I think Honda did a really good job with the new Pilot styling. I think the interior overall solid. I think it's just a well-built vehicle. Golf GTI. I was debating between putting this and the Golf R on the list, and I just kept the GTI because the new Golf R, it is a great car, and I think it does drive better than the new GTI, but it's also like $50,000, whereas the GTI, I mean, you can get one in the $30,000 range, so I think it's a little bit more reasonable. And then this leads us to the last vehicle on the list, and that is the Mazda CX-5 Carbon Turbo. I think this car looks great. It drives really well, has a beautiful interior, and again, it's reasonably priced. It's under $40,000. And you probably noticed that's kind of the trend on the list for the most part, is most of these cars are not going to break the bank. Some of them will, like the 911 GT3. But I noticed that car journalists in general will always talk about how their favorite cars, they're these cars that are just out of touch. And I just don't think that's practical. I think there's a lot of really cool cars, as I outlined in this list, that you can get brand new that they aren't the cheapest on the planet, but, you know, they are, you know, affordable for the average Joe for the most part. And so now I'll lead into some of my awards. I'm not going to cover every single car category. I'll just kind of cover the ones that I think are, I don't know, the most exciting to me. So one that's probably obvious to you guys is going to be like a pickup truck of the year. And no, it's not the Ford F-150 Lightning like what some journalistic outlets like Motor Trend will vote, which makes absolutely no sense unless they're getting a big paycheck from Ford, which who knows if that's a thing. I don't know. You don't know? Who knows? Anyways, the actual one would be either the GMC Sierra AT4X AEV or the ZR2. I kind of lean more towards the ZR2 because it's a little bit more affordable. But that with the 1500 diesel, it looks fantastic, drives fantastic. It doesn't have the highest payload capacity. It doesn't have the highest towing capacity, so there's a little bit of a downside from a truck perspective. But I just think it's such a cool truck. It would be a great overlanding vehicle. And like I said, if I am in need of a pickup truck in the future, that is most likely the pickup truck that I will be buying. When it comes to more affordable cars, now this wasn't necessarily on the list, but there's a couple that I think that really stood out to me this year. Obviously, the one that was on the list was the Toyota Prius, but I also think that the Toyota Corolla, Honda Civic, I think that they've done a good job with both of those vehicles, with still keeping them more affordable compared to other vehicles on the market. But yeah, that Prius, in terms of like just a great, if you're looking for A to B type car, I think that that is the best right now. I mean, you can get a Prius in the low $30,000 range if you don't need all the bells and whistles, fully loaded. They're still under $40,000. Under $40,000, you know, tons of options if you get like the fully loaded with the sunroof and the heated and cooled seats and all of that. 50 miles per gallon, looks good. I think the new Prius is a really good car, and I think they're going to continue to be sold out for quite some time. And then I guess the last category is the most exciting vehicle. And this will just be like a random category. And then that'll cap off the video. And I would say that it's the Ford Raptor R. I wanted to vote the Bronco Raptor as the most exciting vehicle because I obviously bought a Bronco Raptor instead of a Raptor R. I could have gotten a Raptor R, but I went with the Bronco Raptor route. But that's just because I kind of prefer SUV styling and SUV driving dynamics. But yeah, I mean, that V8 in the Raptor R, it's so good, and the off-road capability, like, it's such an amazing truck. And if Ford puts that powertrain in the Bronco Raptor, I'm just gonna say right now, that'll be like the coolest vehicle ever created. Like, hands down, no arguments whatsoever. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about my list. Let me know if you think if I left any vehicles out that should have been in this video, for the 23 sales year. I'll see you.